Hi everyone, Cathay Wagantall here. Third try is a charm, so hopefully this works. I've had my Wi-Fi cut out twice, and I am here in the House of Commons, so there you go. Just wanted to share a few things with you. It is Thursday night, tomorrow's Friday. You'd think we'd all be home, day's over, but a lot has been happening, so I thought I'd just share a few things with you this evening about the week. A number of things happened. And so just want you to have an idea of what goes on, especially at the beginning here with the throne speech as an example. We've had the week to debate it and present amendments to it. And so it did pass on division. What that means is that we didn't have a stand-up vote, but we indicated that it was on division. So not everyone was in support of it. However, we didn't go forward with that stand-up vote because we had brought forward an amendment to it that actually passed in the House because all of the opposition behaved like opposition. And we came up with an amendment that the Bloc agreed with in regard to their concerns. And then also what we said is that they must present a budget before the end of spring, before we go home. And everyone on our side of the floor, everyone other than the Liberals, voted for it. So that means that we won. And so that amendment was part of the vote that the Liberals had on their throne speech. So to vote in favor of their throne speech, they had to actually appreciate and accept that there was an amendment there calling on them to present a budget before they go home. Now, you guys know, I'm sure, that budgets are important in your life. They're important in my life. We have to decide how we're going to spend our money, how we're going to save. We can't go out and spend every dollar, borrow every cent, and print all the money that we possibly can to enable us to live above our means, right? However, this federal government for the last decade and continuing on, I'd say even worse, is doing just that. So instead of the atrocious amount that Chrystia Freeland was bringing in, and this prime minister saying that he was going to, because he's a banker, he was going to take care of things and make sure that everything was done appropriately and that we were spending within our means, yada, da, 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 da. And here he is with almost $500 billion that he is prepared to spend with no oversight. So what we have here is no budget. So no idea of where your tax dollars are at, where the money is at, where he plans to spend and how he plans to pay for things. There was, of course, those tariffs that he introduced, counter tariffs, claiming that $20 billion of this expense, this $500 billion almost dollars, was going to be covered by those tariffs. And of course, what did he do? He came out with elbows up during the election, claiming that he was going to take care of Trump. And then quietly, before the election was even over, he removed what tariffs were there at that point in time. So we have a prime minister already showing that he has total disregard for the House of Commons and total disregard for Canadian taxpayers. Now he's going to tell you something different than that. He's going to say, we are doing amazing things, and it's in their Ways and Means motion. They claim they are giving you a tax break of around $800 per couple, family, and they are in theory, but our guys in finance, who are just beyond amazing and know what they're doing, discovered that it was somehow implicated as well in tax credits. And as a result of the loss of these tax credits, you are going to be lucky to have enough to buy a couple of cups of coffee a week. Around $200, they figure, is what is going to be the bottom line when they put it all together. So obviously our tax cut was significantly more. You're going to hear me echoing myself because everything that they brought in this Ways and Means motions, they are very reflective of what our plans were. And so you think, oh, they're giving them a tax cut just like the Conservatives were going to do. Well, no, ours was considerably more and actually a tax cut in the amount that was being expressed. and these guys have misled on that tax cut. So it is coming in, and it is better than nothing. So, of course, we're supporting that. And then the second thing they're doing, housing is huge. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what I've learned from some young people here that are concerned about this issue. And I hope that a lot of young people listen to this, because there's things here you need to know and understand about the use of words. And sometimes, we'll get into that. But the bottom line is they've said they are prepared to give a GST cut on a new home up to $1 million, I think $1 million and a bit dollars. So that sounds really good, except for it only applies to first-time home buyers. So, that's a great thing for you if you've never bought a home before or built a home before. Obviously, you're not going to be in a position, probably as a first-time home buyer, to be able to spend $1 million on a house. And of course, there are places in Canada where that's almost necessary to just get the most basic of homes. But they are giving the impression that this is going to make a huge difference to the housing crisis. And of course it won't. Our policy they took was the GST break on housing, along with other things like cutting down on the expenses of permits and whatnot. But ours was to anyone building a new home, because the reality is we need a lot of homes built, which will enable more people to have that home with that huge GST break if they're able to have it. But at the same time, what it will do is open up other housing, right? I don't know about your family or your folks, but for us, my husband and I, our first house we bought back in the day was, at the time it was well over 30 years old. We thought it was a really old house, right? And we bought it and found out what all the hidden costs are in buying a home and whatnot, and you take a deep breath. But at least we were in the market and we had our first home. It was beautiful to us, by the way. Pierre talks about being able to own a beautiful home on a safe street. What does that mean? Really what that means is you're in a home that you can afford. It's yours. You're investing in it. And you have the opportunity to make changes to it and make it your own and raise a family in it and possibly sell and move up the chain as far as being able to afford a newer home when the prices are good and this type of thing. So this GST break, again, that the Liberals are chirping about, is better than nothing. But again, it only applies to first-time home buyers. So that's not at all what we were envisioning if you're serious about dealing with the housing crisis that we're facing in Canada. So there was that. So there's the tax break, the GST, and then, oh gosh, I'm forgetting about the third. How in the world can I do that? Give me a senior moment here. What was the third thing that they're planning to do? I'm sure it's something that we had in mind. I'll have to come back to that because I can't remember it right now. But basically the issue is that what they're presenting in this Ways and Means motion, which again is not typical of the way you do this. They're bringing it forward not as legislation per se, but it's a different form of doing it. And we don't have a budget, and we don't have any way of tracking what they're planning to do at this point in time. They have admitted now that, actually, Carney and his team are not on the same page often, as you're probably noticing if you're following it all. So they really felt that it was not good for them, because we were making a really good point that how can they bring forward $500 billion in expenditures and not explain how they're going to pay for it or what they're going to spend it on and where they're going to get that money from. So they did finally agree through Carney, countered what his minister said, and said there will be a budget in the fall. Okay, a budget in the fall. What does that mean? Well, let's see. When is the fall? Well, it's not till September at least, right? Maybe October or maybe into November. No guarantees, no date, no commitment. And so by then, this government will have been in power for a significant amount of time and be spending that money, as they already were doing actually before our dear Justin Trudeau just spent the cupboard dry as he was leaving as well. So, man, you guys, I'm telling you, if you voted Liberal, I hope you realize what you've done, because everything that they're doing, first of all, they stole from our campaign and then tweaked it to where it sounds good, but it isn't. And it's going to cost Canadians dearly over this time. We also this week had the opportunity, in addition to bringing forward that motion that passed, and it says right there that they are required by the House to bring forward a budget before we leave. And, you know, that's another example. They just snub their nose at it. They could care less. They say, we take note, and then go on to whatever it is they want to try and explain in the House. So not good. But we also had the opportunity to do an emergency debate on the wildfires. So this is something that goes outside of the norm of the day. So the day usually ends around 6:37. They may have we don't have any private members' bills right now, so that time was open. So from around 6:30 till midnight, anyone who wanted to speak to the wildfires had an opportunity to do that. And so I was really pleased to be able to represent in Saskatchewan. And, you know, the focus of the wildfires, it's terrible. It's just beyond terrible what has happened. And people have lost their lives. People have lost their homes, their businesses. And it's still happening. So we know that it is a very serious circumstance. However, one of the things we needed to look at is the reality of how this government has handled the fire season over the course of this last decade. And their ideology says, don't clear the bush, which is totally contrary to what should happen, to what our Indigenous communities know and have always done for decades, for years, to make sure that our forests are safe and productive. Instead, even out here at Gatineau Park across the way, if a tree falls, it just stays there. They're allowing everything to build and build and build. And then when you get really hot weather, not unlike what happened in Jasper, where, yes, the weather was very hot, it was dry. And we ended up with a significant fire there because it was not managed. The forest was not managed. And that has happened again in these circumstances. As well, as the reality, you know, during the debate, they kept talking about climate change, and that this was all due to climate change, and of course talked about how we supposedly are climate deniers. And you know what? As I talked about the things that caused that fire, part of it was that the climate has changed and it's been very, very dry. And that's what's happening up north in Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta, and northern BC. So, but what we learned and what we know is, and Dane shared this, he's on this file for us in Alberta. And also Ted Falk mentioned about Manitoba's fires. Out of 20 some fires, only four were not started by humans. So, you know, in other words, they're misleading about the dynamics around these fires and how they started. And sparks, you know, we just have to be beyond careful when the weather is the way it's been, and we end up in the circumstances that we're in. So we're all hoping and praying, and everybody's working hard, province to province and together to see these fires put out. And we'll have lots to deal with even after that, right, to help people to restore their lives. And that's what Canadians do. That's one wonderful thing that, you know, everyone who comes here, everyone who comes to the prairies, I can tell you in Saskatchewan, I hear over and over again people say, wow. Even who came to work because they had to come from central Canada or something. And thinking of one in particular said, oh, I thought my life was over and my career was over. And then I said, well, how do you feel now? And he just said, Cathay, I never want to leave. So there you go, Saskatchewan. I never want to leave. But then he said, I have a problem. my fiance is still studying nursing in Ontario, and she's given me an ultimatum. Saskatchewan or her, right? So he was able to get her to come out for a few weeks, and you know what? She can hardly wait to finish. She's probably finished by now, and come to Saskatchewan to work. So there you go. But just one more thing, I just want to talk about this whole housing thing, because during the election, we had the youth vote. We have the majority of young people, and that's right from 18 first-time voters up to in their 30s, who were just committed to Pierre because we know what's happening here, and it's your futures that are really on the line here, and this needs to be turned around. So, and housing is a huge thing, right? To not be able to own your own home at some point is devastating when you see the circumstances that our young people are facing. So anyways, we had that youth vote, the vast majority of it, and a young person said to me, "Oh my goodness," and was looking on his phone, and he said, my friends are changing their minds. They're voting for Carney. And, I don't know how many this impacted, but it shocked him. And I said, wow, ask them why. What is it? Why are they voting for Mr. Carney? And he said, they said that he promised, and listen to this, that he would build homes they could afford. All right, so there's, looking at your first home and what it's going to cost and all of these things, he made a promise that he would build homes that they could afford. So I said to this young man, okay, that's what's called an open-ended sentence. So ask your friends, did they think that meant build homes that you can afford to buy or build homes to rent? And his eyes went, oh my goodness. And of course, Mr. Carney does not talk a lot about young people buying homes, unless of course you can build something and afford to do that and get that GST rebate. But a lot of young couples can't, or young people, young singles. And so it really threw them to realize what they did is took what he said and then interpreted it the way that they want it to be. And so that's happening a lot around here. You will hear him saying things about, the tariffs, and then you find out, oh, they're not there. But wait a minute, you said you were going to do this, and then it changes. The amount of money they're going to spend, right? That it was going to be very reasonable, and he's a banker, and he's had all these roles, and so he knows how to handle money. And here we are facing again one of the most serious crises in regard to our Canadian taxpayer dollars being spent without any idea of what these guys are doing with it. And so we'll continue to challenge them on that. And the Ways and Means vote, of course, we will support it because they are incorporating things that you need. It is a tax cut. It is help with building a home. And I'm sorry, I've had too many early mornings and too many late nights. Yeah, that's not an excuse, I know, but that's me. So we have tonight what's called Take Note debates. And because they didn't present a budget, we have these main estimates, money that gets to go out the door, because there are certain things that once they're put into a budget and they're ongoing, you have to have the funds there. So we're going, wait a minute, we don't even get a budget, and we didn't get a chance to look at and challenge the main estimates, which we usually do at committee level. So we arranged, and this is the good work of our House leader, Andrew Scheer, who is also now our interim in the House leader of the opposition, while Pierre is working hard on becoming recognized to be back in the House in the fall. It can be done, and it's great that he's doing it. We are thrilled, and what we get to do tonight, I think there are 3 nights of 4 ministers each night coming to the House, and we get to challenge them and ask them questions. And they have to respond, and they have to respond in the same amount of time as our question is being asked of them. So it's really, really a good opportunity to find out if anybody has a good handle on how money is being spent or what they're doing. Armed forces, oh goodness, there's just so many issues right now where what they're saying, quite honestly, we don't believe can be done in light of the circumstances that they're in. So anyways, happy going into Friday. I'm on house duty. We take turns taking one day a week, and my group have been on Fridays since we started after the election until we go home the end of June, mid-June, June 20th. So very hard to get home because the flights are miserable, but I always go home on the weekend. So I get maybe, if I get in Friday night not too late, I can drive home, but usually it's closer to midnight. So we wait and drive home, and then I have to be back at the airport for a flight out at 2 o'clock on Sunday. So guys, I'm so grateful for my constituents, for you guys that appreciate the challenges. And I appreciate the challenges that you're facing. Our farmers, I know those canola tariffs from China are ridiculous. I know it's not on all of the canola on every scenario, but it still impacts significantly. And all of the uncomfortable, what do we do? Do I seed or not? And of course, we're into the seeding season over, and I just appreciate the challenges that you're facing. And believe me, China has to be dealt with, and there's not a lot happening there right now, as I know you know. So anyways, thank you all very much. Thank you to the team that right across the riding stepped up and helped me during the campaign. It was just absolutely amazing. All those that came out every time I got to talk with some folks meant the world to me, and I'm here to serve you and look forward to being in the constituency in Yorkton, Melville area, all the way up to Hudson Bay and Carrot River and down to the Qu'Appelle Valley along the Manitoba border, and then down through Nacum and Spalding and Wynyard, and first of all, Watson, Wynyard, down through Melville and to the borders. So it's over 42,000 square kilometers now, but looking forward to spending some of my summer just being out and about and listening. And please give my office a call if you have anything that you'd like to connect with me on. I'll do my best to connect with you. 306-782-2209. 9022. Wow. Yeah, we're all a little weary here, but another day to go. Thanks so much. Have a good night.